three-brained beings who arise on the planet Earth as in us, namely, 1. The brain determined by great nature for the concentration and further actualizing of the first holy force of the sacred Triyamasikamno, called the holy affirming, is localized and found in the head. The second brain, which transforms and crystallizes the second holy force of the sacred Triyamasikamno, namely the holy denying, is placed in their common presences, also as in us, along the whole of their back, in what is called the spinal column. 3. But as regards the place of concentration and source for the further manifestation of the third holy force of the sacred Triyamasikamno, namely the holy reconciling, the exterior form of this being brain in the three-brained beings there bears no resemblance whatever to ours. It must be remarked that in the primordial three-brained beings there, this said being brain was localized in the same part of their planetary body as in us, and had an exterior form exactly similar to our own. But for many reasons which you will be able to understand for yourself during the course of my further talks, great nature was compelled little by little to regenerate this brain, and to give it the form which it now has in the contemporary beings. This being brain in the contemporary three-brained beings there is not localized in one common mass, as is proper to the presences of all the other three-brained beings of our great universe, but is localized in parts according to what is called specific functioning. And each such part is localized in a different place of their whole planetary body. But although in its exterior form this being center of theirs has now variously placed concentrations, nevertheless all its separate functionings are correspondingly connected with each other, so that the sum total of these scattered parts can function exactly as in general it is proper for it to function. They themselves call these separate localizations in their common presence nerve nodes. It is interesting to notice that most of the separate parts of this being brain are localized in them, just in that place of their planetary body where such a normal being brain should be, namely in the region of their breast. And the totality of these nerve nodes in their breast they call the solar plexus. And so, my boy, the process of Jartkalam in the omnipresent Okidanok proceeds in the presence of each of these favorites of yours, and in them also all its three holy forces are blended independently with other cosmic crystallizations, and go for the corresponding actualizations, but as, chiefly owing to the already mentioned abnormal conditions of being existence gradually established by them themselves, they have entirely ceased to fulfill being partikdog duty. Then, in consequence of this, none of those holy sources of everything existing, with the exception of the denying source alone, is transubstantiated for their own presences. The crystallizations arising in their presences from the first and from the third holy forces go almost entirely for the service only of the common cosmic trogo-auto-egocratic process, while for the coding of their own presences there are only the crystallizations of the second part of the omnipresent Okidanoch, namely of the holy denying. And hence it is that the majority of them remain with presences consisting of the planetary body alone, and thus are for themselves destroyed forever. As regards all the peculiarities proper to the omnipresent, everywhere penetrating active element Okidanoch alone, and also as regards the further results which these peculiarities actualize, You will have a complete representation of them only after I shall have explained to you in more or less detail, as I've already promised, about the fundamental laws of world creation and world maintenance. But meanwhile, I shall tell you about those elucidating experiments concerning this omnipresent cosmic crystallization, at which I was personally present. But I must tell you that I was an eyewitness of these said elucidating experiments, not on that planet Earth which has taken your fancy, nor did your favorites make them, but on the planet Saturn, where they were made by that three-brained being who during almost the whole period of my exile in that solar system was my real friend, about whom I recently promised to tell you a little more in detail.